You ever watch your group board and then you're the only one who gets pulled aside like you did something illegal? No yelling, no drama, just a quiet, brutal sentence. Sorry, you can't board. And the wild part is it's usually something boring. One missing name detail, one passport issue, one system glitch, and your trip flips to not today. In 2026, people get blocked in the same 4 places over and over: at TSA, at the airline check-in counter, at the gate, and at the border. So in this video, we're breaking down the biggest ways travelers get denied in 2026 and the quick checks to do before you ever walk into the airport. Welcome to Travel in 2026, where your driver's license is trying to live on your phone. You pull up your digital ID and Apple Wallet, and for a second, you feel unstoppable. Tap, done, keep it moving. And sometimes, it really does work like that. The issue is, it's not consistent. Not every checkpoint runs the same setup. Not every lane supports it the same way. And some days, the reader just decides it's picky. So instead of cruising through, you get that awkward pause, and you're the one stepping aside while the line keeps rolling. That's why the rule is simple. Use digital ID if you like, but bring the physical one every single time. Not most trips, every trip. Because you do not want your entire day hanging on a loading screen when your battery is low, your phone acts up, or the lane simply won't take it. Now, the Real ID star. Real ID enforcement is already in play, and starting February 1st, 2026, TSA adds a paid fallback called Confirm.ID for travelers who show up without acceptable ID. Here's the warning. It's $45, non-refundable, and it's not a guarantee. That $45 doesn't buy you the right to fly. It buys you a chance to be verified. If they can't confirm your identity, you can still be denied at security, lose the $45, and lose the flight too. The plane does not wait while you try to prove you're you. So here's your 15-second fix before you leave the house. Check your license for the Real ID star. And if you don't have it, bring a passport. Keep your physical ID on you, even if you love the digital version. And never plan to sort it out at the airport. That's how people get stuck paying $45 and watching their boarding time disappear. And if you think this is strict, take a breath. Europe is rolling out a border system that's even less forgiving. If you're picturing a romantic European summer, you still can have it. Just know the border part isn't the cute montage anymore. Europe's new entry-exit system, EES, started rolling out on October 12th, 2025. It's a phased rollout, and by April 10th, 2026, it's basically the new normal at Schengen external borders. Translation: the satisfying passport stamp fades out in a lot of places, and your entry gets logged with biometrics instead. Face scan, and in many cases fingerprints. Then the system timestamps you in and out. And this is what it feels like in real life. You land after a red eye, you're running on fumes, you're doing connection math in your head, and the line is moving like it's stuck in slow motion because a lot of people are scanning for the first time. Scan again. Look at the camera. Try the other finger. It's not hard. It's just slow when everyone hits it at once. So let's call this what it is: the messy connection zone. If you've got a tight connection through a major hub, don't gamble on immigration being normal. Build buffer time. And if you built your trip on separate tickets, that buffer matters even more. Because when the delay comes from border processing, the airline computer is way less likely to treat it like their problem. Now you're paying for a hotel and a new plan with your own credit card. Now the second Europe shift is even sneakier, because it can block you before you ever fly. Later in 2026, ETIAS kicks in. It's a required travel authorization for visa-free travelers with a €20 fee. The fee isn't the scary part. Forgetting the approval is. If it's not in the system, the airline can stop you at check-in before you ever reach the plane. And yes, scammers are going to love this. If some random site is trying to sell you ETIAS early for a markup, back away. Use official channels because the airline isn't checking your receipt. They're checking the system. Now, same movie, different country, the United Kingdom. The UK's ETA becomes a hard requirement from February 25th, 2026, and it's £16. No ETA in the system can mean no boarding. And here's the trap people don't think about. It's tied to your passport number. So if you apply, then renew your passport later, that approval may not match anymore. One mismatch, and the airline system can flip to no. Europe isn't trying to ruin your trip, it's just switching to digital gatekeepers. And digital gatekeepers don't negotiate. So yeah, Europe is building digital gatekeepers. Asia's doing the same thing, just with a different flavor. One door opens here and there, but the bigger trend in 2026 is this. More countries want your info in a system before they want your smile at the desk. Picture landing after a long flight, running on fumes, and the first thing you hear is basically, okay, pull up the confirmation. Not later. Not after you find Wi-Fi. Right now, with a line stacking up behind you. It's fast when everything matches and painfully slow when it doesn't. Japan is where you feel it immediately. It's already a biometric moment when you arrive, and Visit Japan Web can make the flow smoother if you actually finish it and generate the code. The way people get stuck is always something tiny. One wrong passport digit, a name format that doesn't match the passport, or you thought you did it, but you never completed the step that creates the code. 10-second fix. Do it the day before. Confirm the code is actually there, and screenshot it so you're not begging airport Wi-Fi to cooperate. China is a different kind of trap because it depends is basically the policy. People hear 240-hour transit and assume it's a free mini visa. It isn't. It only works if you're truly transiting to a third place with a confirmed onward ticket, and the details can hinge on your exact routing and where you land. A round-trip plan is not transit. 10-second fix. Before you plan a big detour, verify your specific route qualifies and have your onward ticket ready to show without digging. And here's the scam angle that's already showing up. If some official-looking site is trying to charge you just to submit an arrival card, back out. The real process should not be a surprise checkout screen. So the move for Asia in 2026 is simple. Treat every country like it has its own system. Double-check that your details match your current passport number, and keep a backup that doesn't depend on airport Wi-Fi. And speaking of passports, the next trap is brutal. Your passport can be valid, and you can still get blocked. All right, no confusion, no jargon. This is the stuff that keeps you from getting stuck in the dumbest ways possible. Digital ID is fine as a backup. Your physical ID is what keeps the line moving. Liquids are still liquids, so don't donate your expensive cologne at security. And screenshots? They're your proof when an airline suddenly develops amnesia and calls everything a system issue. Now, here's the boss-level warning that quietly ruins trips. The 6-month passport rule. Go check your passport expiration date. Not later, now. Because it doesn't matter that your passport is valid today. A lot of countries won't let you in unless your passport stays valid for at least 6 months beyond your travel dates. So you can be holding a passport that looks fine and still get stopped at check-in because the airline system flags you as not eligible to travel. And this isn't a rumor. US State Department guidance makes it clear this is a real requirement in a lot of destinations, and airlines can deny boarding if you don't meet it. And if you're wondering why the airline acts so cold about it, it's simple. They don't want fines, and they don't want to be forced to fly you back. If their system says you're not cleared, the counter becomes a hard stop. Now, while you're holding your passport, don't just stare at the expiration date. Check these 2 things that get people denied even when they did everything right. First, damage. A water stain, mold spots, a big tear, weird markings on the data page, pages coming loose, even a missing visa page. Those can be enough to get you blocked before you ever fly. You can have the visa, the ticket, the hotel, the whole itinerary, and still get stopped because your passport looks like it lost a fight with a spilled coffee. Second, blank pages. Some countries want 2 to 4 blank pages. And yes, some airlines will block boarding if you don't have enough room. And you can't add pages anymore. If you're running out, you renew, ideally with the larger book so you don't get ambushed mid-year. Quick trap while we're here. Don't confuse a passport card with a passport book. The card can be useful in specific situations, but for international flights, it won't save you. It's the kind of "I brought my passport" moment that still gets you denied at the counter. And this is where people try to fix it fast. and accidentally make it worse. Here's the twist. If you renew your passport online to be safe, the system can deactivate your current passport right away. Even if it still has months left on it, it may become unusable for travel the moment you submit the online renewal. That's why the US State Department warns not to use online renewal if you have international travel within the next 6 weeks. So imagine this. You renew online because you're being responsible, and you just turned off the passport you were planning to fly with. You didn't lose it, you canceled it. Also, online renewal isn't for every situation. It's generally for adult 10-year passports and straightforward cases. If you're dealing with name changes, certain updates, or anything unusual, don't assume the online option will even accept you. One more micro update for 2026, because everyone's doing it: passport photos. If you use filters, heavy editing, or AI enhancement to make your photo look nicer, you're not upgrading it. You're risking a delay or a rejection. The State Department is clear that digitally altered photos aren't allowed, so keep it simple, clean, and boring. Boring gets approved. So yes, get ahead of the 6-month rule. Just don't solve it in a way that deactivates the one passport you needed for the trip. And once your passport and IDs are handled, there's one last enemy in 2026 travel: the airport itself. The moment you clear security, you stop being a passenger and start being a target. You want the fastest version of the airport without paying for stuff you don't need? Then think in bottlenecks, not in app names. If your pain is re-entering the US and getting stuck in that customs line, start with mobile passport control. It's free, it works at a lot of airports, and it basically lets you send your info on your phone instead of doing the paperwork shuffle. Just don't assume it's everywhere. And no, it doesn't replace having your passport on you. If you're flying internationally a couple times a year and you're tired of rolling the dice on that arrival line, that's when global entry starts making sense. It's the "I value my time" option for coming back into the US, and at airports that support the mobile flow, you can get through with way less kiosk drama. Now, different bottleneck: domestic security. TSA PreCheck helps with the screening part, the part where people are taking off shoes and unpacking their whole life into bins. Clear is different. Clear is just the ID check at the front. So if you buy Clear expecting it to fix the entire security experience, you're going to be disappointed. But if your airport has both, stacking Clear with PreCheck is when it actually feels unfair in a good way. One anti-sales note: if you fly once or twice a year, you probably don't need a paid membership. Don't buy a subscription out of panic. Pick the tool that matches your bottleneck, and only if your airport actually supports it. And here's the punchline: you can have every app on Earth, and none of it matters if you fumble the basics. One more thing: apps don't save you from paperwork. Check your passport expiration. Airlines love saying no at the counter. Now add World Cup crowds, and everything gets stricter. Even if you don't care about soccer, the World Cup can still mess with your travel in 2026. Because from June 11th through July 19th, North America is basically running airports like a packed stadium. And when the system is overloaded, you lose the little bits of grace you normally get. The check-in cutoff gets real. The bag drop window gets real. That "we'll figure it out when we land" plan turns into "sorry, next available is tomorrow." Here's what it looks like. You fly into a host city thinking you're being efficient with a tight itinerary. Then security is twice the usual wait because half the terminal is in jerseys and carrying flags. You land late, sprint to the next gate, and the flight that would normally have a couple open seats is full. The next one is full too. Suddenly, "I'll just take the next flight" isn't a thing. So the move during World Cup season is boring, but it works. You build real buffer into anything that involves a connection or a borderline, because those are the first places that turn ugly when crowds surge. You also stop booking flights that leave you zero room for error, especially late afternoon and evening travel days. If you can grab a morning flight, you're buying yourself slack before the day falls apart. And if you're bringing a bag or you care where you sit, lock it in early, because when planes are full and overhead space is tight, almost fine is the exact moment fees and gate check surprises show up. Canada can lull people into feeling relaxed because entry is usually straightforward for US travelers. But during match weeks, the lines still stack, and land, clear, connect gets risky if you cut it close. Mexico is the same vibe, normally manageable, but during the Cup it turns into a pressure cooker. And this is the season where showing up with the almost right document, or assuming you'll fix something at the airport, gets punished fast. If you're traveling in that June to July window, drop your route in the comments. Are you doing a US airport run, crossing into Canada, or flying into Mexico? And if you're watching this with a trip already booked, save this and send it to the one friend who always says, "We'll figure it out at the airport." In 2026, crowds don't just slow things down, they make the rules hit harder. All right, big takeaway. Denied boarding in 2026 usually isn't about drama. It's about one small thing hitting the exact wrong checkpoint on the exact wrong day. So here's your 30-second ritual before every trip. Check your ID, check your passport details, check your airline requirements, and make sure you have the proof pulled up and ready before you even leave the house. 30 seconds now beats 3 hours of panic later. Now I'm curious, where do you think people get blocked the most? Comment one word: TSA, airline, border, or passport. And if you've got a trip coming up, save this and send it to the friend who always says, "We'll figure it out at the airport."